I thought of a situation where knowledge is not worth it. And I think with children, especially young children, it's actually important for them to live in a fantasy. And I don't just mean like to tell them, you're the best, you're the best in the world or whatever. But I feel like children don't need to know about, Al-Qaeda beheadings and war
I
and
was I was
rape.
gonna say that
And
Santa doesn't
no,
exist,
but
but
seriously,
yeah,
like,
also that.
right, okay, no, but that's on the same topic, right? Is it's like
Yeah.
we feed them false knowledge of things like Santa and the Easter Bunny and the Tooth Fairy, but it is to their benefit because it establishes a worldview of theirs that is filled with positivity, right? And it's like, for example, I think this all the time when you see like a kid in the street or like a little baby, like a toddler, just say in the shopping mall, and the toddler's with her mum. And the checkout lady goes, hey, have you bought that? Do you want to buy that? Yeah, here you
Yeah.
go. And it's like the checkout lady would never talk to me like that because I'm a grown
Wish
up.
they did.
But
Yeah.
what? So it's fake, right? I wish they did, but they don't, right? Or, it's fake, that interaction with the child, but they don't know that. They think it's real. And so by giving them fakeness, a fantasy of like, hey, we all treat each other like this, kind of tells them this is how beautiful and special the world is. And they'll grow up and they'll realize that this is just them being treated like a child, but I think they will take that with them. And so I think that's an example of where knowledge is not worth knowing, is specifically in the case of children, where I think it's important for them to live in a type of fantasy that tells them that the world is a lot happier than it actually is, right? It's like you don't want to give your child a cynical perspective, right? Cynicism's for adults. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, but I guess you could argue, doesn't that sort of set them up for failure, though?
No, I know that this seems like it, but I don't think so. I think a natural child will grow up and they will come to these conclusions themselves. And my own experience when I found out Santa wasn't real, I don't think it's as disappointing as, like, it kind of sucks, but at the end of the day, all I wanted was just the presents, right? Like,
Yeah.
and so as long as they kept coming, I was happy. It wasn't so much the knowledge, but like the outcome of that knowledge. And that didn't change after discovering Santa's not real. But it's things like, just say young children who grow up with a dysfunctional family learn from a young age, to children and people who are exposed to trauma from a young age tend to mature at a lot younger age. This isn't just like anecdotal, like this is sort of an established idea in psychology, is that being exposed to trauma makes young people mature quicker. And that's not necessarily a good thing. And I'm not saying trauma is the same as knowledge, but trauma informs you of something. And I think that information that trauma gives you is what makes you grow up. Is because when if you're exposed to trauma, you realize like, oh my God, the world isn't safe. It's not happy. It's not fun. In fact, it's cruel and evil at times. And I think that is like what maturity is about, is sort of realizing these things about the world. But you don't want to mature too quickly, right? Maturation is a process, and it shouldn't just be come on too quickly. And so this is sort of what I wanted to talk about is this question. I think is specifically applicable to children, is that there's a lot of knowledge children shouldn't know about, specifically because they have to arrive there through maturity, right? And this is things like sex and drugs as well.
Yeah, no, definitely. But so the takeaway of that is that some things are better left unknown until the right time, right?